um, but it's been a few months, but believe it or not, your mentees are seniors now. They're getting ready for um, everything that has to do with senior year, which is everything that I'll be sharing with you guys today. So I don't want to cause any spoilers. There's a lot of activities and work that we do with them, but what we always tell the students is like the majority is on them because we can't do it for them. And then they also can't wait until we're meeting for them to complete the work. A lot of that is on them to do at home, at night, or on the weekends. It is stressful because we push them a lot harder than the guidance counselors do to Immokalee High School students. But that's because we know they can do it and we want them to get the best financial aid package possible. So I'll start sharing my screen right now.
Hey, Daniel,
Yep.
throughout this conversation we're having today could you kind of highlight the big things that we can help them with this year? Kind of the things that we should be focusing on to give them a hand, and I mean, some of them they'll identify themselves and want to talk about, but others might not see as largely important, and certainly maybe your team does. So you can help us with that. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's a big part of what I'm going to share today.
Perfect.
All right, so you should see my screen. Sorry, just fixing so I can still see everyone. um, as always, if you have any technical difficulties, text me. I have my phone right here, so I'm able to see any messages that may pop up. So we're going to cover the team members, our staff that works with them, and the biggest items that take place for senior year that you guys would be able to help the students with. Those include senior essays, resumes, Common App, FAFSA, and just how senior year looks. And then we'll have some time for some questions. Um, if anyone has any questions at any point, please feel free to interrupt me, stop me, drop it in the chat. I have an eye on everything, so I'm more than happy to stop at any point. I always like to shout out our administrative team. Don, Bob, and Jim do a great job of leading us, guiding us, connecting us with people and resources. And Bob and Jim were principals for many years, so they know what it's like at the school district with the counties, with the work that they did as principals. So they're able to give us a lot of advice when it comes to working with the seniors and any of the high school kids. Um, I'm Daniel. I think everyone knows that. But this year we did some restructuring with our team. So Anita is only working with seniors this year. So she's helping all the seniors with all the items that I just listed and focusing only on them. Last year she did work with the seniors and juniors, but what we wanted to try out this year is her working with just the seniors, getting them ready for everything that they need to do starting in junior year. So she will be helping out the juniors a little bit, but her primary focus is the seniors. Esmeralda is our other high school coordinator. She's working with our sophomores and juniors. So in the spring of junior year, Esmeralda and Anita will work together to kind of get them ready for senior year. If you haven't heard, we actually started a middle school program this year. So the goal with that is to prepare students in middle school for not only academically, but also socially for life in high school. They came in with not a whole lot of confidence and or any preparedness when it came to high school. So a lot of our high school students were struggling at the little bit at the beginning, and we want to help combat that. So Islam is working. We have sixth and eighth grade. We only have about 15 kids per grade. Um, and with our freshmen. So that's a little bit new, but she's doing a great job. We're actually meeting with the parents tonight to talk about what the program's going to look like and to get all the emergency contact information and to get started. But she's had a few of the students come in, and it's been phenomenal. And if you've never worked with middle school students, um, it's definitely interesting, and it's a lot of fun. I will say that they're really good kids and they're really funny. Our after school team, Amanda and Monica, Amanda oversees Eden Park and Monica oversees Highlands, but they also help with the other three sites. So they kind of manage our after school side, which is really great because they kind of have been doing it for a few years and know the ins and outs. Um, Our college team, Jorge and Abby, so they work with our college students. So once your seniors graduate, well, actually, I should say through senior year, Jorge and Abby will start joining in on workshops and on check-ins and checking in with the seniors. So when they graduate, they'll already be familiar with them as staff, to be able to send in updates, to know what to expect during college. And that way it's kind of a smooth transition. And I'll kind of lay that out for everyone as well. But Abby is the primary coordinator for this graduating class, so you'll hear a lot from her. Okay, so the senior essays, this is a very big part that we believe mentors could help with their students. The senior essay is a big component of everything that's going to take place this year. So I actually thought it'd be really good if I shared the prompts with you. So all of our students fill out the Common App. It's a web portal that actually allows them to submit their applications to a bunch of different schools. These are the 7 essay prompts that they get to choose from. The first one is some students have a, well, background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application will be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. The students who select this one are the ones who want to talk about their family, what they've gone through, what their culture means to them. That's typically what we see with this prompt. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? The students who typically pick this prompt are the ones who may have struggled freshman or sophomore year with grades, with classes, or had some kind of family setback or unexpected happening that really affected them. Those are typically the students that will choose that prompt. Number 3, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? For this one, this is when students, there's only a very small number of students who choose this prompt. And it's kind of focused around the time when they started maturing and started realizing, that there's more to life in the world outside of them. So they start to think about things, start to question things. Number 4, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? What I've seen with this prompt, students will often talk about their work in the after-school program. They'll talk about how the little ones actually talk to them every day, look up to them, speak to them, ask them questions. And they'll say they'll say a fake name for a student, but they'll say, young Steven here really motivated me to do better because he told me about his life and that he looks forward to seeing me. Those are the kinds of responses we get to that one. Prompt number 5, discussion accomplishment, event realization that has sparked your period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. So students don't often talk about their accomplishments. This one is also one of the ones that's rarely chosen. It's hard for them, from what I've seen, it's hard for them to brag about themselves, which is tough because they're so amazing to talk to hear from, to hear their story, that it's like you need to learn that you're really awesome or you're really great so that you can tell others how great you are. So this one is a good one for some students to do because, it is a little bit challenging, but they have so much that they've done that it's just incredible. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So this is kind of an interesting topic because it can be done in different ways. David, I'm going to call you out a little bit here because his wife Joanne had Katie Flores last year, who was a student, who was a senior. She actually spoke about gibbets. They're the little figures that go on the end of Crocs in the little holes, but she used that prompt to talk about the gibbets and how it came into her personality, how it came into her having conversations with others, how it came into her expressing herself and learning about others. And it was such a captivating essay that you would never think she's talking about these little plastic pieces that you put on Crocs, which is incredible. I don't know if you want to add anything about that essay, David, that you saw.
Hold on. Yeah, I have to say it was one of the most surprising young person's essays I've ever read. I thought it was going to be a little odd, and it turned out to be kind of emotional, intellectual. I could see why, quite honestly, she was probably accepted into more of the colleges and universities than they'd expected to, because on the basis of that essay, it just demonstrated so much from her growth and her perspective.
Yeah, and the topics, I mean, gibbets, who would have thought talking about little plastic pieces that go on a shoe? She had so much to tie into it. The seventh prompt is something that I'm not a fan of. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. This is the most popular prompt when it comes to the seniors, and I'll actually explain why with the senior essay common issues. Students will select that last prompt because they don't know what their main idea is. They don't know what it is they want to talk about. They're just spewing out whatever comes to mind, and that's why they'll end up choosing that essay. Um, Most of those students end up changing it and then going to a different prompt because they finally realize what their main idea is. So a lot of the conversations that we have with the seniors, and I encourage all the mentors to do as well, is, you know, asking the student, what's your main idea? What is it that you want to talk about? What is it that you want to focus on? Because everything else ties around it. And they'll jump from, at the very beginning, they'll jump from one topic to another, to another, to another. And it's like there's no correlation. It's just random stuff that they thought of. And that's where they have that trouble finding their main idea. But once that student realizes what it is they really want to speak about, it's like a light bulb just goes off in their head. And then they actually start spewing out good information that all kind of ties together. Um, Another common issue is focusing on family or parents. So what we tell the students a lot, because many of them are very impacted by what their families have gone through, whether it's coming from Mexico, whether it's working as migrant, whether it's traveling for work, whether it's seeing their parents work construction or these really hard jobs. They focus too much on their family or their parents. We tell them that the senior essay is about them, not their parent, not their sibling, not their cousin, not their grandparent. It's about them as a student. The people who are admitting them into schools don't want to hear about their family or their parents. While it is a good introduction, it shouldn't be their main idea. Um, it is a little bit difficult for the students because they're unsure how to talk about themselves. They're unsure how they can relay the message. But that's why Anita and I, we started over the summer. We've done a few rewrites and drafts. We sit down with them, we talk to them. Pretty much every student has a solid intro and then a first paragraph. Some of them are not as strong, but again, this is where we invite mentors to ask your student, you know, can I see your senior essay? Can I read it? Um, One thing they often struggle with is because they're working on this for so long, they'll reread it dozens, if not hundreds of times. They'll look at it one day and say, I don't like it. And then they'll throw it away and start over. It happens more often than you think. Um, and the students are, again, it's because they're unsure what they want to talk about. So that's why they'll look at it and say, you know what, I don't really want this essay anymore. I'm going to try another strategy. That kind of holds them back a little bit, especially when it gets closer and closer to college application submission day, which we have the students, we give them a deadline to submit everything. The closer they are to that, the more panicked they are and the more random their essay can be. And again, with finding their main idea, that's where they'll find that they chose the wrong prompt. They're not really answering the question that they selected for themselves at the beginning. So again, a lot of it kind of focuses on, you know, what is their main idea? What should they focus on? So I encourage all of you to say to your mentee, like, what's your main idea? What's your topic? What are you centering or structuring your essay on? The very last item we focus on is grammar, because grammar for us is an easy fix compared to everything else the students kind of go through and talk about in your senior essay. Are there any questions on senior essays at this point?
When are they due?
So the priority deadline for a lot of the Florida schools is November 1st. So they'll need to have their essays typically by November 1st.
So that's coming up. So that's, I mean, that's kind of right around the corner.
Yeah, and that's we started off in June, July, and they'll go through several rewrites, and it's a long process, but we'll get them there.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions on senior essays? If you think of something later on, by all means, I'm more than happy to talk about it. With resumes, I apologize to everyone. The attachment that I sent to everyone, I didn't save it correctly, so it copied my senior essay slide to the resume one, but I'll resend it out. Anita created 6 different templates that can just simply be filled in for the student. It already has that they're a part of Tutor Corps, that they're a part of Immokalee High School. All they have to do is fill in their name, their email, their clubs. She'll also be creating more for them to have a variety of options to choose from. What the students struggle with in the resume piece is summarizing what they've done in that club or activity in like 2 to 3 bullet points. They'll try to put in a whole paragraph or 2 about what they did in beta or in crop or key club or whatever it may be. What we, like most resumes, we want them to summarize it into quick 2 to 3 bullet points. Some students did a lot of clubs, some students did a few. So that's kind of where it depends, you know, how much room do they have to talk about everything they've done. What we tell the students too is that when they're completing their college applications and when someone is looking at them from the other end, they already have their resume, so they know what clubs they've done. So they don't need to talk too much about that in their senior essay. They know what activities they've done, what they've worked in, based on the resume. So their senior essay is really a chance to talk about different things. The Common App that I mentioned, it is by far a very great improvement on what senior applications used to look like. It used to be that you had to fill out one application for each school, so you were constantly putting in your name, email, address, all that information. Now it's all in one portal. You do one application and it gets sent to 12, 15, 20, however many schools those student wants to apply to. With the Common App, they'll all have the same base information. There will be some additional info that's required that's unique to each school, but for a majority of it, it's all done in that one application. And the other really cool thing that is only just one application and one web portal is the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So I don't know if anyone got to hear what was going on last year. They created the Better FAFSA, is what they called it. Typically, in a year, we saw that it would open on October 1st. Last year, they pushed it to November and then December 31st is when it finally opened. So everything got pushed back by about 2 months, which was, in lack of better words, terrifying. Because all the students, all the colleges were getting the students' financial aid packages delayed. They weren't able to get the full picture. With the Better FAFSA, every parent and student needs to have what's known as an ID verification. For those with just a simple social security number and parents' tax information, it's easy, it's quick, it's simple, great. That is not always the case that we work with here in Immokalee, which is where we have a little bit of trouble. But we were able to get every student done. Granted, some of them were a little bit delayed, but we were able to get every student a strong financial aid package last year and work through each problem as it came along. What we did with the students this year is we actually had our current seniors do last year's FAFSA this past Monday and Tuesday. So this way, if there were any issues that were coming across with FAFSA, we were able to take care of it early. Because if we were to wait until December, any issues that were gonna pop up are gonna pop up for everyone else in the country, and then suddenly a student on hold with FAFSA for 4, maybe 5. We even heard of the student being on hold for 8 hours last year, which is just ridiculous. Some common FAFSA issues that we'll face is the parents' taxes. Sometimes they're not done correctly because they say they know a person who does their taxes for them. Granted, these people are not certified tax agents, so that's where it could get a little bit troublesome. I'm not saying every family in Immokalee does that. There's a minuscule few, and that's where we work with them to get those fixed. The parents' identity verifications. So if they don't have a social security number, they need to verify who they are by speaking on the phone with the IRS department that links up with FAFSA. If they have an employee, it is known as an ITIN, and it is an identifying tax something number. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the abbreviation. But that one is also different from a social security number. So if they have an ITIN, they also have to call to get them clarified. So that's where we'll work with them as well to make those phone calls to help them make sure that they got their FSA IDs ready. Another common FAFSA issue is the claim dependence. We've run into a lot of different scenarios with FAFSA. We've learned a lot. Sometimes parents do their taxes separately, and one claims one child while the other claims the other child. Some file as head of household, even though they're married, and file it jointly. We've run into every issue imaginable. And I'm sure there's still a lot more out there that we haven't run into, but we work with them to get those fixed, to get them arranged so that the student can get their FAFSA submitted. The other big issue right now is the release date. So in a normal school year, FAFSA is ready and available for every single student in the nation on October 1st. About a month ago, they announced that they were pushing back the opening date to December 1st, which for us, since we experienced everything last year, we're worried because in their small lettering, they put that they have up until December 31st to open. So it could be another situation where no student's able to access FAFSA until December 31st. It is scary, but hey, we got through last year, so we can do it again this year. We're here to help the student. We're not here to, what I always tell the students and the parents is we're not here to judge the student or the parent, finances, any tax information. We're here to help them. We want all the students to get as much financial aid as they can. We partner with an organization known as VITA and with Immokalee High School when it comes to FAFSA completions. VITA is a great organization that started, I'm not sure where it started, but they started in Immokalee last year. They help families who earn under, I believe it's 70 or 60,000 a year, complete their taxes or amend their taxes for free. It's a great organization. We got a contact there, so we are actually referring a few students and their parents. But they'll help the students and the parents complete the taxes for free. No charges, no fees, and they are legally allowed and certified to complete those taxes for them. With Immokalee High School, Jake Simmons is the college and career counselor for this the Immokalee High. And what's great about him is his entire job revolves around college and career preparedness. So if there's a senior who is having trouble getting a hold of FAFSA to verify his identity or his parents' identity when he goes home from school or from work or on the weekend, he actually arranges with the teachers to pull them out from class, give them their assignments, and they will sit with him in his office and they will dial on the office line to try to get their identity verified, which is a huge benefit because not many students have the time outside of school to do that. But he's able to work that out with them and still make sure they're doing their homework and their assignments. But it is amazing. Any questions on FAFSA so far? Or anything I may have hit? All right. So with senior year, I kind of wanted to share with everyone things that you and we track it, but we also welcome you to talk to your mentees about. We talk about every college application that a student is going to submit or has already submitted. We encourage students to do 3 reach schools, the ones that may be a little bit out of the reach with GPA and test scores, 3 just right schools, which are gonna be ideally their match, and 3 safety schools, the ones that ultimately they can fall back on. Definitely encourage you to ask your students, what are your 9 schools? There are gonna be a few students who say, I'm only applying to 1 school or 2 schools. And that's where we tell them, no, you are applying to more. There's a gentler way to deliver the message, but that's the one they understand the most. Where we say, no, you're applying to more. We track their high school GPA and their dual enrollment GPA. Those are 2 very different numbers, because if a student is struggling with their FSW or FGCU classes, their dual enrollment GPA will drop, and it will actually affect their college GPA in the long term. So we do keep track of both of them. There's scholarship funds that they've been working in after school. We keep track of that as well, so that a student will know at every point. I believe everyone got to be with their mentee at last year's mentor dinner. That's where we hand them that slip with the paper and the number of how much funds they have. We keep track of their desired majors, their top 3 school choices. So their number 1, their number 2, and their number 3. We tell the students that we will help them as much as we can, not only to get accepted, but to find ways to pay for it. We keep track of the FAFSA applications, so we know what students are struggling with, what they may have issues with, so that we can help them get those submitted. We keep track of our partnership college presentations. So I mentioned a few of those last year, where we have about 8 to 9 partners throughout the nation that provide scholarship packages to our students. So we keep track of the students who are interested in those schools, so that we can work with the partnership school to not only have the student's application kind of fast tracked, but also to find out if they're accepted, and then scholarship package put together, and then the opportunity to fly out and visit the campus. So we keep track of those as well. Bright Futures eligibility. If anyone's not familiar with Bright Futures, they have 2 scholarship packages. One covers 75% of tuition in the state of Florida, and the second package covers 100% of the cost of tuition for a school in the state of Florida. There are requirements for volunteer/work hours. Our work in the elementary schools qualifies for those hours, so usually the students are okay. The main issue where students find that they're not eligible is meeting the test score requirements for Bright Futures. So I encourage you to talk to your student about what their test scores are at and what they're doing to kind of improve it, if they're able to do it. And then we also track the university connections. So whenever a student is applying to a school, no matter where, typically we have a connection there, either in the admissions office or the career counseling office, one item, whatever it may be. We reach out to that connection to let them know, hey, I'm Daniel from Guadalupe Center. These are our students who are applying. This is what we do in our program. This is what the students have done, to kind of help them get a little bit of an edge.
Daniel,
Yeah.
a question. I mean, this applying to 9 schools. I mean, if the student says, hey, I only want to go in-state, I want to be close. I mean, what's the point of having to apply if they're saying now they're not going to attend anything other than these 2 or 3 schools?
So if a student was to come to us and say, I want to stay close to home, our typical reaction is to have them apply to FSW, FGCU in Fort Myers, USF in Tampa, and FIU and FAU in Miami. That already gives them 5. So that they can look at the different financial aid packages that come in. Because once a student sees the money differences, it's typically when they'll be a little bit more comfortable to say, you know what, I can go a little bit farther. A big reason that some of the students would not apply to, say, 9 schools is because they're fearful of what they're going to hear. So it's being scared that they're going to get rejected, being scared that, they're not going to be able to afford to go there. It is a reality. So we do say, you're not going to get accepted to every school you apply to. You may hear a rejection or 2 or multiple. And you may also find out you got accepted, but then find out you can't afford to go there. So then that's where we'll work with them to find out not only what is the best match for them, but what can they afford to go. And that's why for the last 3 years, we've been able to send students to schools without taking out any loans.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I can relate to what happened to Joanne last year and Katie. So Katie had her eyes focused on a couple of schools, southern US schools. And at the end of the day, because she was forced to apply in a wider framework of schools, she ended up going to Illinois because of the great funding that they provided. And it also met her needs for program wise. So, and it was, if you'd asked her this time of year, are you going to Illinois? She would have looked at you like you were from outer space.
Yeah, and sometimes the students may not be happy about having to apply to multiple, but they're happy with us at the end of the year. Um, what I always say to the class when the senior class, whenever we start off the year, is I say, you're gonna hate me up until about February, March, and then you're gonna see these packages coming in with financial aid, with acceptances, and then you're like, oh, dang, he's not so bad. It's a thing every senior goes through because we also take up all their early dismissal and no school days. We tell them to come to the center and we actually have them spend that time filling out all these items, completing their essay, completing their applications, completing their resumes. And I tell them at the beginning of the year, it's a lot of work, it's stressful, it's exhausting, it's a day off and you just want to go home. Well, you'll thank me at the end of the year and you can hate me for now.
But so I'm assuming that you and your staff are going to give them, I mean, they may know of 3 schools or 4 schools they like. You're going to give them other ones that you'll suggest they apply to.
Yeah, we'll suggest other schools as well that fit not only what they're looking for, but also what the students' GPA and test score are, where they have a chance of being accepted.
Got it.
My last slide. If you'd like to hang out with your mentee on a Saturday, September 14th and September 28th, those are the 2 Saturdays before our next mentor Zoom call. There will be a staff member here at our campus from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you'd like to come out, just let me know. And I'm more than happy to book one of the lounges so that you can have that private space. And now that is all for my presentation. Where's my, oh, here it is.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Mary Lee.
Do they all have their SATs and the ACTs completed? And have they taken them twice or just once?
So we had all the students registered last year as juniors to take both of them. The instructions we sent out were that they needed to complete both. They needed to complete both tests at least once, and then choose which structured test they like more, because that's really the only difference now between the SAT and ACT is the way the test is structured and then the score that they receive, and that they'll study for that one more. Anita is actually going through all their portals. She started this past week. She hasn't finished it yet, but to get their latest updated SAT, ACT scores so we can collect them and talk to them about, what their picture may look like. Something I actually forgot to mention in the slideshow, for the State University System of Florida is the only system that is really impacted by SAT and ACT. There's a minimum requirement for a student to have to be accepted, which is a 21 on the ACT, and I believe they changed it to a 1070 on the SAT. There are first-year programs that are able to talk to the student and kind of adjust that a little bit. So the CAMP program at USF was able to get it down from a 21 to a 19, and I believe from a 1070 to a 980, I want to say. I can double check those numbers. I forgot to put it on there. I apologize. But those kinds of programs help the student get accepted. It's the CAMP program at USF, which is for migrant students. The CARES program at FSU, which is for any student to apply. They don't have to be necessarily migrant. At UF, it's the first year scholars, and I believe for FGCU, it's the first year EAGLES program. Those, if I did get the names correctly, I'll include it on the slide for next month, just in case. They'll have lower test score requirements for those students.
Okay, thank you. And one more question is the dual enrollment GPA. I don't understand what that is. I kind of missed it when you were talking about what's the difference between their GPA and their dual enrollment GPA.
So on our and we track all there are 3 because who doesn't love numbers. There's their unweighted GPA, which is a summary of every class that they've taken, high school or dual enrollment. That one is the hardest one for a student to raise or lower because it's just a summary of every single class they've ever taken. Their weighted GPA is that same GPA, but honors classes, AP classes, dual enrollment classes have additional point systems. So in AP or honors class, maybe an additional half a point or 0.25 of a point, while a dual enrollment or early admissions course will be an extra full point. So a student can go up to a 5.0 or 6. It can get crazy high. Their dual enrollment GPA is just a summary of the college classes that they've taken with either FSW or FGC. So it is their official academic transcript. So that is the separate GPA in that instance. I
Okay,
hope that kind of helps.
thank you.
Any other questions? I know it was a lot of information. Anita and I do this every year and it's always a lot, but then it's so exciting at the end of the year when we're at senior celebration and the students are so excited about where they're going to school and the money that they've received. It's always an amazing night. I believe Carolyn and Richard, you got to see it every year. David, you got to see it last year with Joanne. It's an amazing event. Now you guys get to see all the work that goes into it ahead of time. Any questions on senior year or anything that I may have covered? Anything going on? All right, we can take a quick 5-minute break before the students jump on. They'll jump on at 2:15. One thing I did want to share with all senior mentors, and I was gonna put it in my recap email as well. Our cultural event will be changing. We wanted to do MJ the Musical at Artist Naples. The price is just unfortunately way out of our budget. Last year it went up from 109 to 139, and this year it went from 139 to 200 a ticket. So unfortunately, we just can't justify, spending that much on all the students. I am trying to make a connection at Barbara B. Mann to see MJ the Musical there, because their tickets are a little bit cheaper. But I'm researching, finding venues, finding different partners to try to get the seniors the best experience I can find.
Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. I know I was excited for MJ the Musical. We're looking forward to it, but but we'll take a quick 5-minute break. If you want to turn off your microphones and cameras, get some water, go to the restroom, and at 2:15 we'll jump back on.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Daniel, I have
Thank
two-
you.
Oh, Daniel, I have two mentees, Eileen and Edith.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I'll be able to connect to both of them.
Yeah, I'll put them both in the same room.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to stop the recording.